You know, it's almost funny how fast the conversation around Shedeur Sanders exploded. Not long ago, just 4 months back, you couldn't scroll through your feed or watch a draft segment without hearing his name. Shedeur Sanders was a lock, not a maybe, not a dark horse. A lock to go number 1 overall in the 2025 NFL Draft. If not first, then absolutely inside the top 3. But fast forward to today, things got messy, fast. Mel Kiper Jr., who had Shedeur comfortably slotted in the top 3, quietly slid him down to number 9 in his latest mock draft, projecting him to the New Orleans Saints. Suddenly, Shedeur's draft stock wasn't climbing anymore. It was sliding, and experts weren't sure where it would stop. And it's not just the draft boards. His recent pro day, let's just say it got people talking for all the wrong reasons. Scouts nitpicked his mechanics, specifically his habit of patting the football before throwing. Social media exploded. NFL players started arguing with each other on Twitter. Micah Parsons and Darius Slayton went back and forth like it was a playoff game. See, this isn't your typical draft story. This is a battleground. One half of the football world sees Shedeur Sanders as a polished, high IQ quarterback who can lead a franchise. The other half, they see limitations that can't be overcome. And that's why Shedeur Sanders hasn't taken a single NFL snap, but he's already split the league in 2. If you really want to understand Shedeur Sanders, the hype, the criticism, the impossible expectations, you have to start with one name, Deion Sanders. Because before Shedeur ever threw a college touchdown, before he ever walked across that stage at the NFL Combine, he wasn't just another prospect. He was Primetime's son, the kid born into flash, swagger, and headlines. Deion Sanders isn't just a football legend. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, a Pro Football Hall of Famer, an MLB player who appeared in a World Series, and one of the most electrifying personalities the game has ever seen. He didn't just play sports, he owned the spotlight. And that spotlight, it's been burning hot on Shedeur since the moment he picked up a football. From high school at Trinity Christian in Cedar Hill, Texas, Shedeur was already under the watchful eye of his father, not just as a parent, but as a coach and mentor. Deion was the offensive coordinator, and Shedeur was the quarterback, learning the game at a level most high school kids could only dream of. And the results? Impressive. Shedeur threw for over 3,700 yards and 42 touchdowns his senior year, proving he wasn't just writing his last name. He had talent, real talent. But even then, the choices he made were never simple. Initially, Shedeur committed to Florida Atlantic University. Safe choice, steady program. But when Deion took the head coaching job at Jackson State and HBCU in the SWAC at the FCS level, Shedeur flipped his commitment and followed his father. It was a decision that raised eyebrows. Critics wondered if Shedeur was taking the easy route, banking on family ties instead of challenging himself at a Power 5 school. But the truth, he saw an opportunity to make history, to elevate an HBCU program onto the national stage alongside his father. Has Shedeur ever just been Shedeur, or has he always been Deion's son? That's the question that's followed him from day one, and it's still following him now. At Jackson State, Shedeur didn't just manage games, he dominated. He became the starting quarterback as a freshman in fall 2021 after missing the spring season due to COVID delays and eligibility issues. Once he took the field, it was clear this wasn't just nepotism at work. Shedeur passed for 3,231 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions in his first season. He was named SWAC Freshman of the Year, earned second-team All-SWAC honors, and won the Jerry Rice Award as the most outstanding freshman in the FCS, becoming the first player from an HBCU to ever win it. But Shedeur was just getting started. His sophomore campaign was even more impressive. 3,732 yards, 40 touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions. He captured SWAC Offensive Player of the Year and secured the Deacon Jones Trophy as the top HBCU player in the country. Jackson State thrived under the Sanders family leadership. They posted an 11-2 record in 2021, finishing ranked number 19 in the FCS coaches poll. They followed that with a 12-1 season in 2022, climbing to number 11 in the final rankings. Sure, there were disappointments. They lost the Celebration Bowl both years despite their regular season success. But what Shedeur and Deion accomplished was undeniable. They put Jackson State on the map. They brought national attention to HBCU football. They changed the conversation. Yet the whispers persisted. Was Shedeur really that good? Or was he simply feasting on lesser competition? Could his success at the FCS level translate to bigger stages against better athletes? These questions hung in the air, following Shedeur like shadows as he prepared for his next challenge. The believers pointed to his precision, passing, and decision-making. The skeptics pointed to the level of competition. And just like that, the pattern was set, a pattern of division that would only intensify as the Sanders family made their next bold move. When Deion Sanders shocked college football by accepting the head coaching job at Colorado, he didn't go alone. He brought his sons, including Shedeur, and even convinced Travis Hunter, the nation's #1 recruit, to follow him from Jackson State to Boulder. It was a massive gamble, a huge jump from the Southwestern Athletic Conference to the Pac-12. Colorado had been a disaster, finishing 1-11 the previous season. Many wondered if Shedeur's success could possibly translate to this level of competition. It didn't take long to get an answer. In his very first game for Colorado against defending national championship finalist TCU, Shedeur Sanders delivered an absolute clinic. 510 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That wasn't just good. It was record-breaking, the most passing yards in a single game in Colorado history in his debut. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. The media couldn't get enough. Shedeur was everywhere. ESPN, Fox Sports, social media feeds blowing up with his highlights. NFL scouts started paying serious attention. The Buffaloes kept rolling. They beat Nebraska the next week, with Shedeur throwing for 2 touchdowns and rushing for another. Then came Colorado State, where he posted 4 touchdowns in an overtime thriller. 3 games, 3 wins. Colorado was the story of college football, and Shedeur was at the center of it all. But reality was waiting just around the corner. Week 4 brought Oregon, ranked number 10 in the country. This was the real test, and Colorado failed it spectacularly. The Buffaloes were demolished 42-6. Trailing 42-0 early in the third quarter. The offensive line couldn't protect Shedeur, who was under siege all game. The USC game the following week was different but equally revealing. A 48-41 shootout, where Shedeur threw for 371 yards and 4 touchdowns, but couldn't overcome the Trojans' firepower. Then came a brutal stretch against ranked teams, UCLA, Oregon State, Arizona, all losses. Colorado finished the 2023 season 4-8 overall and just 1-8 in Pac-12 play, closing with a 6-game losing streak. Despite the team struggles, Shedeur still put up impressive numbers: 3,230 yards, 27 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, plus 4 rushing touchdowns. The 2024 season brought redemption. With improved talent around him, Colorado bounced back with a 9-3 record, going 7-2 in conference play. Shedeur was magnificent, throwing for 4,134 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions while adding 4 rushing scores. The Buffaloes even made it to the Alamo Bowl, though they lost to BYU. Through it all, the highs, the lows, the comebacks, Shedeur's resilience was his calling card. But while the stats told one story, the film was telling another, more complex tale that would become the crux of his draft evaluation. When you talk to NFL scouts who aren't chasing headlines, the ones who spend hours breaking down every snap, they'll tell you, Shedeur Sanders' game is far deeper than the surface level noise. Let's start with his accuracy, which isn't just good, it's exceptional. Shedeur led the entire FBS in completion percentage this past season. And we're not talking about a scheme that only generated easy throws. Colorado's offense asked him to make NFL-level reads and throws repeatedly. What makes his accuracy truly special is the ball placement. Shedeur doesn't just hit receivers, he puts the ball exactly where they can do something with it. Out in front on crossing routes, back shoulder, when defenders have inside leverage, high point when needed. In quarterback evaluation terms, this is called YAC optimization, placing passes so receivers can gain yards after the catch. Shedeur does this consistently. His pre-snap processing is another major strength. Watch the film closely and you'll see him walking up to the line, diagnosing the coverage, and having a clear mental picture of where the ball needs to go before the snap even occurs. Against complex zone disguises, like the cover 2 invert looks Kansas State threw at him, he adjusts mid-play, finding the open window and throwing to safe spots away from lurking defenders. He possesses great quick game accuracy, which is easily his best trait, notes one analyst. The keys to that accuracy are anticipation, spot throwing, and coverage processing. Take that Colorado-Kansas State game as an example. The Buffs use a bunch formation to try to determine the coverage. Kansas State disguises things, switching from what looks like man coverage into a cover 2 zone invert, where safeties and corners switch responsibilities. Many college quarterbacks would be fooled, but Shedeur recognizes it immediately and throws his receiver open into the soft spot of the zone. Decision-making is another standout quality. Over the last 2 years, his turnover-worthy play rate was just 1.3%. Absurdly low. He doesn't take wild risks, he understands coverages, he recognizes blitzes, and more importantly, he knows when to just eat the play and live to fight another down. Then there's his toughness. Shedeur took an absolute beating at Colorado, especially in 2023 behind an offensive line that could barely keep defenders at bay for 2 seconds. Yet he never showed frustration, never pointed fingers, and kept getting up play after play. Colorado runs as close to a pro-style offense as you'll find in college, requiring Shedeur to work through full progressions rather than rely on predetermined throws. When he's in rhythm, he's working through reads 1, 2, 3 while identifying coverages, an advanced skill most college quarterbacks never master. The tape also shows that Shedeur is extremely comfortable throwing over the middle of the field, an area many young quarterbacks avoid. He threads needles between linebackers and shows excellent touch on seam routes and deep posts. While his highlight reel might not feature the jaw-dropping improvisational plays you see from some other prospects, Shedeur's game is built on consistency, precision, and intelligent football. And for the right system in the NFL, those traits translate beautifully. But for every box Shedeur Sanders checks, there's a shadow on his scouting report, limitations that have scouts genuinely concerned about his ceiling at the next level. His arm strength is the most obvious issue. While adequate when his feet are set and he's throwing in rhythm from a clean pocket, Shedeur's arm talent drops significantly once he's forced to throw from awkward platforms or while on the move. He struggles to drive the ball downfield with velocity, especially on deep out routes, or when throwing against his body. He doesn't have the arm strength to accurately push it to the 40 to 50 yards down the field, mark that every quarterback, at a bare minimum, must be able to do, notes one analyst. Without the threat of a consistent deep ball, NFL defenses could compress the field against him, taking away the underneath throws he relies on. Then there's his mobility, or rather, the lack thereof. At the Combine, Shedeur measured 6 feet 1 inch, 212 pounds, and ranked just 14th among quarterback prospects in athletic testing. While not a statue, he's definitely not the dynamic runner that many teams now desire at the position. He's not extending the play and rolling around, explains one scout. He's more of a pocket passer type that can make a guy miss here and there, but not something I'd want to rely on as a coach. What's particularly concerning is how Shedeur handles pressure. Rather than stepping up into clean pockets, he has a tendency to drift backward and sideways, a habit that turns manageable pressure into drive-killing sacks. According to advanced metrics, Shedeur ranked in the bottom 5th percentile in EPA loss due to sacks among draft-eligible quarterbacks. Film study reveals that this drifting habit got worse in 2024 compared to 2023, likely a response to the consistent pressure he faced behind Colorado's struggling offensive line. It's a classic case of bad habits forming from bad circumstances, but habits that could be devastating in the NFL. There are also legitimate questions about Shedeur's production. Colorado's offense featured a heavy dose of screens, 24% of passes behind the line of scrimmage, and relied heavily on the otherworldly talent of Travis Hunter, who consistently bailed out his quarterback on contested throws. Speaking of those contested throws, Shedeur's willingness to rely on 50-50 balls raises eyebrows. In the NFL, those windows close faster, and defenders punish those decisions more severely. His mechanical issues are another point of contention, most notably the ball pat that became such a controversy during his pro day. While some NFL quarterbacks do pat the ball before throwing, Shedeur's version takes longer and is more pronounced, providing that extra split second for NFL pass rushers to close the gap. If you're bringing it down to just coil the ball a little bit, that's more time for us to really get after it, explained one NFL pass rusher. In a league where elite defenders can close in milliseconds, this habit could be costly. Finally, there's a question of system dependence. Shedeur has primarily operated from shotgun formations, 0 under center snaps in 2024, with 73% of his dropbacks featuring 4 or more wide receivers on the field. That's the opposite of where the NFL is trending, with most successful offenses utilizing tight ends, play action, and under center concepts. These limitations don't mean Shedeur can't succeed in the NFL, but they do suggest a narrower path to success than some of his peers in this draft class. And they sparked a controversy that would take his draft evaluation to an entirely new level of scrutiny. Just when things seemed like they might finally settle, just as scouts were beginning to balance Shedeur's strengths and weaknesses with a measured approach, the spark hit the gasoline. It started with a seemingly innocuous observation from Shedeur's pro day workout. One scout tweeted, "Lots of double taps and hitches from Shedeur Sanders today. NFL defenders close windows quickly." This was a concerning workout. What should have been a minor note in a sea of draft evaluations exploded into a full-blown controversy that perfectly encapsulated the Sanders debate. Darius Slayton, wide receiver for the New York Giants, leaped to Shedeur's defense, posting, "I promise that he can pat the ball and be just fine. If DBs were so good at breaking on ball paths, they'd all have 8+ picks per year. Same guys that fall for a 2-man dagger concept and give up the dig on 3rd and long every season all season long, talking about a ball pat." What a joke. But Micah Parsons, the all-pro linebacker from the Dallas Cowboys, wasn't having it. He fired back, "You realize a pat on the ball can be the difference between a sack or a throwaway completion." Slayton countered by bringing Tom Brady into the conversation. Tom Brady is literally the king of getting the ball out fast, patted the ball when he threw. So actually no, patting the ball is not the difference. Parsons delivered the knockout. Comparing the greatest quarterback ever to Shedeur Sanders is why I'll never entertain a football conversation with you. Suddenly, this wasn't just about Shedeur's mechanics. It had become a proxy war for how we evaluate quarterback play in the modern NFL. The irony? Shedeur Sanders has actually been mentored by Tom Brady himself. Video circulated of them working out together, with Brady offering guidance on mechanics, preparation, and mindset. But Brady's mentorship wasn't all praise. In a widely shared clip, Brady had previously roasted Shedeur for his lavish lifestyle.
Tom, do you think a college kid needs a phantom, like a road cut?
I think he needs to get his ass in the film room and spend as much time there as possible.
Thank you,
less
Tom.
time in the car and more time in the film room.
Fans quickly dug up footage of established NFL quarterbacks patting the football before throwing, arguing that Shedeur was being unfairly criticized for something common among successful passers. Others pointed out that most of those clips were from training camp or preseason. Controlled environments far different from the chaos of regular season games. Another NFL pass rusher weighed in, supporting Parsons' take. Shedeur Sanders' habit of patting the football provides more time for the defender on the line to get a strip sack. If you're bringing it down to just coil the ball a little bit, that's more time for us to really get after it. Through it all, Shedeur stayed silent. No defensive tweets, no media circuit to explain his mechanics. Just continued preparation for the biggest night of his life. But the damage was done. What should have been a small technical note had become a defining narrative of his pre-draft process, and the perfect encapsulation of how divisive his evaluation had become. The controversy also raised more fundamental questions about how Shedeur projects to the professional level. So how exactly does Shedeur Sanders project to the NFL? That depends entirely on who you ask and what they value in quarterback play. One analyst put it this way: Shedeur Sanders is not who you think he is. With all the flash, the hype, prime time, he is not the flashy player he appears to be. In fact, he's the opposite. He's not extending the play and rolling around. He's not throwing the ball deep. He is an extremely efficient, quick passer with plus accuracy underneath. In other words, he's much more Drew Brees than Lamar Jackson. The NFL has assigned Shedeur a 6.30 prospect grade, which translates to will eventually be a better than average starter. A surprisingly optimistic assessment given the polarized opinions surrounding him. That's definitely not a slam dunk, but it puts him well above most middle round quarterback prospects. His style fits best in timing-based, quick passing offenses that emphasize rhythm and precision over improvisation. West Coast systems that feature short and intermediate routes would maximize his processing ability and accuracy while minimizing his physical limitations. When it comes to player comparisons, three names consistently emerge. CJ Stroud is the most flattering comparison, a cerebral pocket passer who processes defenses at a high level, delivers with accuracy, and shows surprising pocket mobility without being a true dual threat. This kind of feels CJ Stroud-esque, noted one analyst watching Shedeur navigate the pocket. CJ Stroud doesn't play the game necessarily like a crazy athlete, but he's athletic and uses his ability to buy time in the pocket and deliver strikes. Jared Goff represents the system-dependent side of Shedeur's projection, a smooth operator who can thrive in a well-designed offense but might struggle if forced to play outside of structure. I think he has a similar throwing motion to Jared Goff. It's a little bit elongated, but it's smooth, observed one scout. On schedule and like on time, with his feet in rhythm, cares about his accuracy, isn't trying to make a bunch of wild plays. Bryce Young enters the conversation when discussing Shedeur's physical limitations. A smaller quarterback. Shedeur is 6 feet 1 inch, 212 pounds, who compensates with intelligence and poise but faces questions about durability and ceiling at the NFL level. One anonymous scout summed up the projection challenge. If you're going to take a guy in the top 10 at quarterback, you need a guy that can kind of make things around him better, even if the team around him is not as good, like a Josh Allen, a Jaden Daniels. I just don't think I've seen enough out of Shedeur to go to a dog team and last 3 to 4 years truthfully. And that's the central question teams must answer in today's NFL, where the most successful quarterbacks combine processing ability with exceptional physical traits. Can a processor with limited athleticism truly thrive? Some teams believe Shedeur's intelligence, accuracy, and leadership will overcome his physical limitations. Others fear he'll be exposed in a league that increasingly demands quarterbacks to create outside of structure. This divide in evaluation has created one of the most unpredictable draft scenarios in recent memory. With the 2025 NFL Draft rapidly approaching, Shedeur Sanders sits at the center of the league's most intriguing chess match. Once projected as a lock for the top 3 picks, his stock has fluctuated dramatically, and the landing spots keep shifting with each new mock draft. Let's break down the possibilities team by team. At the top, the Tennessee Titans hold the #1 overall pick. Early in the process, they seemed like a potential destination for Shedeur, but recently, they canceled their private workout with him. A clear signal they're looking elsewhere. All indications point to them selecting Cam Ward, who has definitively claimed the QB1 spot in this class. Next up, the Cleveland Browns at #2. On paper, this could make sense. The Browns have signaled they want to move on from Deshaun Watson, and they need a franchise reset at quarterback. But reports from inside the organization suggest they're leaning toward Travis Hunter or possibly Abdul Carter with this pick. As one insider put it, I've talked to my favorite people that I trust the most who have run teams. What do they say? Not worth number 2. That likely means Kenny Pickett would be their QB1 going into the season, if they pass on Shedeur here. There's also industry chatter that Deion Sanders would prefer his son not land in Cleveland given the organization's recent struggles. While that's unlikely to drive the final decision, it adds another layer to the complexity. The New York Giants at number 3 were once considered the perfect landing spot for Shedeur. Before free agency, this felt almost inevitable. They had a glaring need at quarterback and a fan base hungry for a new face of the franchise. But then the Giants made 2 significant moves, signing both Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. While neither is a long-term solution, their presence changes the calculus. Russell Wilson signed a 1-year, $21 million contract, suggesting he could be the starter for at least the upcoming season. Pre-Russell Wilson signing, I would say Shedeur Sanders was a shoo-in to be selected number 3 overall by the Giants, noted one analyst. But post-Russell Wilson signing, I feel like this is something the Giants could kick down even further. The Giants also strengthened other positions during free agency, adding cornerback Paulson Adebo and safety Javon Holland. This gives them flexibility to take the best player available at number 3, likely Travis Hunter, rather than reaching for a quarterback. The Raiders at number 6 present another interesting possibility. They traded for Geno Smith and signed him to a 2-year deal, but they still need a young quarterback to develop. Las Vegas might be the perfect environment for Shedeur's personality and play style. Mel Kiper's latest mock draft has Shedeur falling to the Saints at number 9. New Orleans needs a quarterback of the future, and Shedeur's precision passing would fit well in their offensive system. For the Saints, it would be an ideal fit, one insider suggests. Then there's the wild card, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shedeur is scheduled for a top 30 visit with them, indicating genuine interest. The Steelers pick later in the first round, meaning Shedeur would have to slide considerably to land there. But if teams at the top prioritize other positions, it's not impossible. Ian Rappaport summarized the dilemma teams face. There are teams that need a quarterback no matter what. It's really just, is it worth the selection? Let's say you think he's a mid-first round pick, but you take him at 2 or 3 or 6 or wherever the Saints pick. Is that a reach or is that worth it? And are you passing on a generational talent like Travis Hunter? This is draft season, after all, the land of smokescreens and misinformation. No team is showing their full hand. The Tennessee Titans canceling their workout with Shedeur could be genuine disinterest or an elaborate misdirection. The Giants' quarterback signings could be insurance for the future or a signal they're passing on Shedeur entirely. What's clear is that Shedeur's draft positioning remains one of the biggest question marks heading into April. He could go as high as number 2 to Cleveland, land with the Giants at number 3, slide to the Saints at number 9, or even fall further if teams decide his limitations outweigh his potential. Where he lands will significantly impact his NFL future, setting up 2 dramatically different potential paths. For Shedeur Sanders, the NFL presents 2 dramatically different potential futures, paths that diverge based largely on where he lands on draft night. In the best case scenario, Shedeur goes to a team with a stable organization, a strong offensive line, and a system built around quick, rhythm-based passing. He sits for a year behind an established veteran, learning the speed and complexity of the NFL game without being thrown immediately into the fire. The Saints at number 9 represent this ideal path. With their structured offense and history of developing quarterbacks, New Orleans could provide the perfect environment for Shedeur to grow. The Steelers, with their organizational stability and commitment to fundamentals, would be another excellent landing spot. In this scenario, Shedeur develops into a high-level NFL starter, not necessarily a perennial MVP candidate, but a quarterback who consistently puts his team in position to win. Think prime Jared Goff with the Rams, Jimmy Garoppolo with the 49ers, or even current Kirk Cousins, quarterbacks who may not carry a team single-handedly, but can absolutely lead a well-constructed roster deep into the playoffs. When he's got his cleats in the ground and playing in rhythm inside the pocket, he can make all the throws, notes one analyst. There's definitely some throws to the sideline, nice hole shots. You see some passes up the seam against cover 2. He can make those plays inside the pocket when his feet are underneath him. That's the ceiling. A cerebral, accurate, timing-based quarterback who maximizes what's around him. But there's another path, a darker one. If Shedeur lands with a dysfunctional franchise behind a porous offensive line with limited weapons and constant coaching turnover, the outlook changes dramatically. His lack of elite physical traits means he can't simply overcome bad circumstances through raw talent. He needs structure to succeed. I'd be a little bit weary to take a quarterback in the first round like him that needs a lot of guys around him to do really well, cautions one scout. I don't know if I believe that if you put Shedeur on a bad team, he'd last 3 to 4 years truthfully. In this scenario, Shedeur gets thrust into a starting role too early, develops bad habits to compensate for organizational failures, and struggles to overcome the narrative that he was overhyped because of his last name. The Browns at number 2 represent this riskier path. Cleveland has churned through quarterbacks at an alarming rate, with constant organizational tumult and uneven roster construction. While the talent is there, the environment has been poisonous for quarterback development. The critical factors that will determine Shedeur's NFL trajectory aren't just about his own abilities, they're about the situation he enters. Does he have coaches who understand his strengths and limitations? Does he have protection up front? Does he have weapons who can create separation quickly? These environmental factors will shape his career as much as his own talent. What gives hope to Shedeur's supporters is his intangibles. His football IQ is exceptional. His work ethic, despite the flashy lifestyle, appears to be solid. And having grown up under Deion Sanders' guidance, he understands the spotlight, pressure, and expectations of professional football better than most prospects. A player of his caliber can have success in the NFL, concludes one analyst. But he needs to go to the right situation with the right scheme because he doesn't have that next level wow factor to overcome or compensate for a lack of talent across the board. The debate surrounding Shedeur Sanders extends far beyond one quarterback prospect. It represents a fundamental philosophical divide in how the NFL evaluates the game's most important position. On one side stands the old school, the believers in pocket presence, processing speed, accuracy, and decision-making as the foundation of quarterback play. They see Shedeur as a throwback to an era when quarterbacks won with their minds first, manipulating defenses pre-snap and delivering with precision rather than overwhelming physical gifts. These evaluators point to Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees, quarterbacks who dominated through intelligence and precision rather than raw athleticism. They argue that while the game has evolved, these fundamental skills remain the bedrock of sustainable success. On the other side is the new school, the revolution led by Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. This philosophy prizes physical tools, off-platform throws, and improvisational brilliance. When plays break down, and in the NFL, they always will, can your quarterback create something from nothing? Can he make the impossible throw? Can he turn a potential sack into a highlight reel touchdown? This divide isn't just about Shedeur, it's about the very identity of the quarterback position in today's NFL. Are we entering an era where every quarterback must be an elite athlete to succeed? Or is there still room for the pure pocket passer who wins with intelligence, timing, and accuracy? Shedeur Sanders sits directly at this crossroads. He embodies the traditional virtues of quarterbacking, the processing, the anticipation, the touch, while lacking the jaw-dropping athleticism that defines many of today's superstars. His draft position will tell us something important about where NFL teams believe the position is headed. If he goes in the top 10 despite his athletic limitations, it suggests teams still value the traditional skills above all. If he falls deep into the first round or beyond, it may signal that the league has fully embraced the athletic revolution. What makes Shedeur's case so fascinating is that he's not just a test case for quarterback evaluation. He's a mirror reflecting the NFL's evolving identity. The team that selects him will be making a statement about their organizational philosophy and vision for the future. Shedeur Sanders hasn't thrown a single NFL pass, yet he's already one of the most dissected, debated, and divisive prospects in recent memory. Not because of off-field issues or character concerns, but because he represents the perfect mirror for the NFL's quarterback identity crisis. Is he the cerebral field general who can orchestrate an offense with precision, or is he too limited physically to thrive in a league increasingly dominated by athletic marvels? The truth, as always, probably lies somewhere in between. I believe Shedeur will land with the Saints at number 9, stepping into an organization that understands how to maximize his strengths while minimizing his weaknesses. He'll sit for a year learning the nuances of NFL defense before taking over as a starter who relies on timing, anticipation, and decision-making to compensate for his physical limitations. Will he be a perennial Pro Bowler? Probably not, but he could absolutely be a quarterback who leads his team to multiple playoff appearances. A reliable, smart, capable leader who wins more with his mind than his arm or legs. The Shedeur Sanders story isn't ending on draft night, it's just beginning. And whether you're a believer or a skeptic, one thing's for certain: we'll all be watching. Let me know in the comments where you think Shedeur will land, and whether you believe he'll thrive or struggle at the next level. And don't forget to subscribe for more draft content as we count down to the biggest night of these young players' lives. I'm dropping the mic until next time.